The modern survival industry leans heavily on a specific pioneer fantasy. It is the belief that when the grid fails and grocery store shelves empty, a prepared individual can simply grab a hunting rifle, march into the tree line, and sustain their family indefinitely on wild game. In reality, this is a fatal miscalculation. Heading into the wilderness to harvest meat after a total societal collapse is a strategy built on fiction. It ignores the cold mathematics of human population density and the brutal reality of resource scarcity. The moment you enter the woods with a firearm, you transition from hunter to tracked target. Military tacticians recognize this as an uncontrolled crossfire. The pristine, quiet wilderness you imagine will not exist. When the supply chains snap, hunger will drive millions of desperate people outward from the suburbs and cities simultaneously. The woods will become an uncontrolled, highly volatile combat zone. Stepping past the tree line places you in a meat grinder. Surviving a collapse requires discarding pioneer fantasies in favor of strict tactical realism. This map illustrates the stark biological reality of the North American continent. There are currently over 330 million people in the United States. Conversely, there are roughly 30 million white-tailed deer. The math is unforgiving. If even 10% of the starving human population decides to hunt to survive, the continent's entire population of large game will be eradicated in less than 30 days. And the depletion does not stop with large game. Once the deer are gone, human desperation will trigger an ecological cascade. Small game, rabbits, squirrels, birds, will be trapped and hunted to total exhaustion shortly after. The forest will become a sterile, empty wasteland. Ecologist Garrett Hardin outlined this exact behavioral phenomenon in 1968, famously terming it the tragedy of the commons. Hardin observed that individuals, acting independently according to their own self-interest, will inevitably deplete a shared resource, even when it is clear that it is not in anyone's long-term interest for that resource to be destroyed. In a starvation event, cooperative conservation vanishes. Relying on wild game post-collapse is a mathematical impossibility, driven entirely by raw population data. The meat simply will not be there, which means the primary feature of the woods will no longer be animals, it will be humans. The wilderness will flood with heavily armed, completely untrained, and starving suburbanites looking for the exact same calories you are. Standard military reconnaissance principles dictate that moving through contested terrain is highly dangerous, even for coordinated, well-equipped units. Attempting to navigate brush alone makes you a highly visible, trackable anomaly in a hostile environment. Furthermore, firing a high-powered hunting rifle strips away your only tactical advantage, concealment. A gunshot is a localized broadcast system, instantly announcing your exact position to anyone within a several-mile radius. If you are somehow lucky enough to actually secure a kill, the fresh meat immediately becomes a liability. The caloric reward of a carcass acts as a dinner bell, guaranteeing you will be flanked and ambushed by starving mobs desperate to take what you have harvested. Active hunting forces you to expend energy to broadcast your location, carrying high-value resources through hostile territory. You are simply presenting yourself as the easiest prey in the forest. Grid-down survival is governed by one absolute law: caloric return on investment, or ROI. Every action you take must yield more calories than it burns. This chart tracks the metabolic cost of active hunting. Trudging through cold weather or high-altitude terrain can increase a human's caloric requirements by up to 50%. Tracking non-existent game across miles of empty brush guarantees a massive negative ROI, rapidly accelerating your own starvation. If protein supplementation is absolutely necessary, it is achieved through passive trapping, not active hunting. Traps and snares work 24 hours a day, burning 0 human calories after they are set. Passive trapping requires strict geographical discipline. Traps are set only in concealed, immediate perimeters right outside your primary shelter. You never venture out into the contested, chaotic deep woods to check a snare. Protecting your stored body energy and home stockpiles offers a higher survival probability than expending them in a search for non-existent game. A deeply stocked caloric pantry provides the most immediate, predictable food security when supply chains snap. Stockpiling stable calories in advance allows a survivor to bypass the high-risk gamble of the wilderness entirely. To protect that stockpile, You must adhere strictly to the gray man protocol. This is the behavioral strategy of disappearing into the crowd by entirely concealing your level of preparedness. The gray man uses the herd to his advantage. You must appear weak, unsupplied, and entirely unremarkable. If the unprepared masses cannot distinguish you from themselves, they will not target you for your resources. Discard the pioneer fantasy. Trust the objective mathematics of caloric ROI. Build your deep pantry and remain completely invisible while the desperate eliminate each other in the woods.